I never imagined I'd find myself here, on the edge of everything I once believed was unshakable. Just a few months ago, my life was stable, not perfect, but stable. I had a job I could depend on, a roof over my head, and a marriage that, though imperfect, felt like a partnership. We weren't starry-eyed lovers anymore, but there was comfort in the routine, or at least I thought there was. But life, as it does, unraveled faster than I could patch the holes. It started small. A missed payment here, a delayed paycheck there. Then came the layoff. My company downsized, and I was suddenly without income. I told myself it was temporary. I had skills, experience, I'd bounce back. But as the weeks stretched into months, the job market showed me just how indifferent it could be. I sent out resume after resume, spent hours on cover letters, waited by the phone. Rejection emails began to fill my inbox like digital reminders of my growing irrelevance. I told myself not to panic, but panic seeped in anyway, like water through a cracked foundation. The bills didn't wait, they never do. Rent was due, utilities piled up. Groceries became a matter of prioritizing, not what we wanted, but what we could afford. My bank account was a cruel joke, blinking a dwindling balance that mocked every effort I made. I tried not to let Daniel see how bad it had gotten. Daniel, my husband of 5 years, used to be my anchor. He would pull me into his arms after a long day, promise me everything would be okay, even when it wasn't. He used to believe in me, or at least pretend to, but lately, he barely looked at me. He'd come home, exhausted and silent, eyes fixed on his phone or the television. When I mentioned another failed interview, he didn't even flinch. "I'm doing the best I can," I whispered once, my voice cracking under the weight of disappointment. He didn't argue, he didn't comfort me. He just rubbed his temples and muttered, "We can't live on trying, Emma." The bills don't wait. It wasn't the words. It was how he said them, like he had already stopped seeing me as his partner and started seeing me as another burden. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My mind replayed every misstep, every rejection. I wanted to reach for him, to feel the familiarity of his hand in mine, but he had turned away, both physically and emotionally. The next morning, as he left for work without so much as a glance in my direction, I made a decision that would change everything. Enter Mr. Carter. He was the landlord of our building, a man who radiated control, tall, sharply dressed, with a gaze that always seemed to see more than you wanted him to. I had barely spoken to him outside of rent reminders and brief hellos in the hallway, but now, desperate and out of options, I found myself at his office door. My hands trembled as I knocked. He opened it with an ease that made my skin crawl. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. "Emma," he said, like he'd been expecting me. "I was wondering when you'd come." I swallowed hard. I need more time. I lost my job. Things have been..." He raised a hand. "I know. I keep track of my tenants." I felt shame wash over me. He had noticed, all of it. "If I could just get an extension." He shook his head, his voice as smooth as silk. "Landlords don't survive on promises, Emma." Then came the offer. Casual, like we were bartering for a piece of furniture. "You're a beautiful woman," he said, with unnerving calm. "And I believe in fair exchanges." Every part of me froze. I stepped back. My heart pounded. I wanted to scream, to tell him how wrong it was. But the truth was, part of me already knew he would say this. And what terrified me more was that part of me had wondered if it might come to this. He raised his hands, mocking innocence. No pressure, just an option. I left without responding. The door clicked shut behind me, but his words echoed in my ears all the way home. Daniel came home late that night. I was sitting in the dark, waiting for him. Not for a confrontation, but for comfort, for anything. "You're late," I said, my voice barely audible. "Work ran over," he replied, loosening his tie. I wanted to believe him. I needed to. But something about his tone, about the way he didn't meet my eyes, made my heart sink. "Are we okay?" I asked. He looked at me then, really looked, but there was no warmth in his eyes, only exhaustion and something else. Guilt. "We're fine, Emma." But it sounded like a lie. I couldn't sleep. Mr. Carter's offer haunted me. The way he'd looked at me, the way he'd said no strings attached, like it made any of it okay. It didn't, but still. I was drowning. The rent was past due. The landlord had issued a final warning. We had days before eviction became real. And Daniel, he was slipping away too. He came home later and later, his phone always silent. I noticed a scent on his shirt once, perfume, not mine. I told myself I was being paranoid. That stress was warping my mind, but deep down, I knew. Then the eviction notice came, final, non-negotiable. And that night, I made a choice. I called Mr. Carter. I told myself it was survival, that I didn't have another option, that it was just one time, just to get through this. But the moment it was over, I felt the weight of what I had done crush me from the inside. I couldn't even look in the mirror. I had always believed there were lines I wouldn't cross, principles I would never betray. But desperation doesn't negotiate. It corners you, strips you bare, and dares you to make impossible decisions. And I made one. When I returned home, Daniel was waiting. There was something different in his eyes, something sharp and suspicious. He didn't say anything, but I could feel it. He knew. He asked me where I'd been. I lied. He didn't press, but he didn't need to. The silence said everything. Then, a few nights later, I saw it. His phone lit up with a message. He had left it on the counter. "Last night was amazing. When can I see you again?" My world stilled. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat down. I should have felt betrayed, furious, but instead I felt hollow, like the last thread tying us together had finally snapped. That night, I asked him directly, "Who is she?" He froze, and just like that, the truth spilled out, calm, icy. I didn't plan for it, it just happened. And then, for the first time, I said my truth too. "Me too." He blinked, stunned. "What?" "Mr. Carter," I said. "I did it too." The silence was deafening. "You sold yourself," he spat. "And you didn't," I shot back. "You traded us for something that made you feel alive." He didn't answer. He just packed a bag and left. And I let him. Because by then, I knew it was already over. The apartment was silent without him. For the first time in years, it was just me, alone. And as painful as that was, there was peace in the honesty of it. I had reached my breaking point, but I wasn't broken, not permanently. The rebuild I called Mr. Carter one last time. "It's over," I told him. "I made a mistake. I won't make it again." He chuckled, disappointed. "Your choice." Yes, my choice. From that day forward, I worked, waitressing, freelancing, odd jobs, anything that kept me standing on my own 2 feet. The money was small, but it was mine, and for every dollar I earned, I felt a part of myself return. Daniel never called, and I never reached out. Some things are meant to end, but I began to find myself again, slowly, piece by painful piece. One night, I looked at myself in the mirror, not with shame, but with clarity. I didn't see the desperate woman who made a decision in the dark. I saw someone who survived. The truth I learned: life isn't black and white. Betrayal isn't always born of cruelty. Sometimes it's born of fear, of silence, of not knowing what else to do. I learned that desperation doesn't excuse our choices, but it explains them. And while the past can't be rewritten, the future can still be shaped. Redemption doesn't come from apologies, it comes from change. And I'm changing. I'm not proud of everything I did, but I'm proud that I'm still here, still fighting, still healing. And I know now, with absolute certainty, I will never let myself break like that again.